This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an Enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. Start converting your B2B audience today. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started today at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello and welcome to We Are Starfleet, a Star Trek Strange New Worlds podcast on the Film Stories Podcast Network. I'm your captain for today's show, Ashley Thomas, and today we are discussing the 9th episode of the 3rd season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Terrarium. Joining me today to discuss this episode is my co-captain of We Are Starfleet, Mike Slamer. Thanks for joining me today, Mike.
Hey, Ashley, that's me. Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for starting the show, bro.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome.
This is your show as much as it is mine and then some. So awesome. Glad Mike, this is our first time getting to record together all season.
Actually, yeah, it is. I was thinking
Wow.
about this on the last episode that we recorded. I was like, oh yeah, next week I'm finally recording with Ashley.
Yeah, I know. I'm happy that we finally get to do this. So this is great. In this episode, Lieutenant Erica Ortegas is on a routine mission when she is stranded on a remote planet with a Gorn. Can she get past her trauma and prejudices? Will she and the Gorn make it off the planet? Is this finally the #Mortegas content we have been clamoring for? You'll have to listen to us to find out, to see if you agree. Or disagree. Written by Alan B. McElroy and directed by Andrew Coutts. Joining us today is the co-host of Mission Log Prodigy, Star Trek and Chill, TP for Your Earholes, and the host emeritus of To the Journey. She is the Sonic Shower Hygiene Technologist at Bold Bubbles, and occasionally she and I get to host Mission Log Live together. Welcome to We Are Starfleet for the first time ever. My sister from another mom and mister, it's Charlynn Schmiedt!
Dang, what an introduction. Wow. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I think my whole resume is in that whole paragraph.
I did ask you to check, make sure I didn't miss anything, so.
I don't know if there's anything I'd want to add. Let's put it that way.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today, Char.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you on the show. All right, so, Char, I'm going to start with you. Can you give us, since our listeners haven't heard from you all season, tell us your thoughts on season 3 thus far.
Oh boy. Let's get into it.
All right.
You know what? Season 3 has been a mixed bag.
Okay.
There's been things in the win column and there's things in the not so win column, oftentimes from every single episode all season long. I mean, there's always something good to glean. There's always something that's maybe a little sus. And sometimes there's more wins than L's and the other way around. And man, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it all when we get to the very end, even though we're close right now.
Right.
So, yeah, I kind of feel like this is the sort of season where I can watch the vast majority of these once and I don't ever have to go back if I don't need to. And that's kind of a sad feeling because when I think about other shows that I do watch on the regular, like Lower Decks and Prodigy, and this show doesn't measure up, you have to wonder why.
Yeah.
And it's just not really doing it for me. And that makes me sad. But you know what? Not every flavor of Star Trek is for everybody. And I'm just wondering if this is the direction the show is going, maybe this just is not my flavor of Star Trek. And I can deal with that, I guess. I don't know. What are your all's thoughts on the season so far?
So I love Charlynn, I have to ask, do you think that maybe the reason you're not feeling it nearly as much is because we know that there's literally a ticking clock on the entire show, and that they're kind of geared up towards a TOS reboot style show? Or is it just, generally speaking, the season's not been hitting as well for you?
I think it's more the latter. The fact that there is an end date set now for this show. We know we're getting those 5 seasons and then it's done. And there is that push for the year 1. I'm really neither here or nor there on that. Like, we always knew that we kind of know where the show is ending, right? Mm-hmm. Where Pike is probably no longer captain. We know what's going to happen. And then that leaves Kirk in command of the Enterprise. Cool. That's fine. How we get there is the important stuff in the meantime. It's more just these episodes are not necessarily hitting the mark. Maybe because they don't go deep enough. Maybe because they're trying to go a little too much into the weird. And you know what? The first 2 seasons, I loved it when Strange New Worlds leaned into the weird. It was done well. And now I think maybe they saw or were feeling the success of the wins that they had in seasons 1 and 2 and thought, let's do more. And now it's a gimmick and it's not as much fun.
Yeah, 100%. This entire season, I've been feeling like every episode is just kind of there, and it's not something I'm really looking forward to coming back to because it's leaned into a gimmick every single episode. It's either been a sort of a repeat/rehash of another episode of Star Trek that was original when the episode came out. And now they're kind of leaning into this sort of copy, paste, change it slightly so the teacher doesn't yell at us homework. And that takes away the entire experience of this show for me. And I'm delightful that we even have the show to begin with. I think it's done some pretty good things over the years. And this season, it's just not lived up to its reputation. I think you said it best, Char, with, there's a couple of W's in the win column there, and that's great, but they're fewer than the L's they have taken this season in terms of maybe some of the story structure, maybe some of the pacing, some of the editing, and I'll be honest, comedy, some of the comedy that they've done, Star Trek has always had a good tongue-in-cheek kind of a flavor of science fiction to it where it never really took itself too seriously, but here it's as if they're looking for the joke. Where can we put a joke in?
Yeah, I agree. It is like in some instances where they are strictly going just for the bit. And as a result, they are lacking depth in a lot of these episodes. And that stinks. They've got a stellar cast that could absolutely bring them the really deep material if they just give it to them. And when they do get it, they're amazing. And so I'm really hungry for more of that.
Yeah. Everything has been fine. just fine for me, and I'm sure that sounds like damning with faint praise, and I don't mean it that way. But as y'all have said, some in the win column, some in the meh column, some in the why would you do that column. But I'm really excited to talk about today's episode, and I think you all probably know why, because what have I been saying since the very first episode of this show? Bang the gong, Ortegas.
Finally!
Yes! And so, needless to say, I am extremely hyped to talk about Terrarium today. So, Char, I'm going to start with you, my friend.
Okay.
Can you tell me, just very, very generally, your thoughts on the episode? And if you had to rate it out of 10, where would you rate it?
Okay, generally speaking, I want to cite something that Mike just said a moment ago, which is the kind of copy and paste plotline device. Mm-hmm. They took Darmok and then just added some trauma. Now, the execution of it is great. Melissa Navia is amazing. Finally, she gets a spotlight, and she gets to carry this whole episode, basically. Good on her. Overall, does it all balance out in the end? No. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. 7 because her performance is that good, but the mediocrity of the story, plus let's work, when we talk about the ending, you'll know how I feel. Not pleased. I'll just say that for now.
Fair. Mike, how would you rate it?
I am echoing the 7 out of 10 sentiment here. This episode, I was like, halfway between, I freaking love this. Where has this been all season? And, oh yeah, this is what's been here all season. So it's kind of a strange mix, but overall, yes, Melissa Navia really brought everything she had to this script, to this episode, and literally left it on the studio floor. She brought everything, dropped it down, and said, "This is me. This is what I'm doing. You wanted Ortegas? You got Ortegas."
I feel like that's what the writers did too.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. I think I am less bothered by this amalgamation of Darmok and Dawn and Arena to give it a pass for that. I'm less bothered by those things, but I was so enamored with everything Melissa was doing in this episode, carrying the whole episode. That is hard. Like, when you have all the dialogue, you've got one other person that you're working off of, and they can eventually will have one-word responses, agree or disagree. That's hard to do. She just carried the whole episode, and so for me, I'm giving it an 8.5 out of 10, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Wow.
So,
all right.
I also wanted to say it's also a little bit of the Tholian web, where Kirk phases out and Spock wants to get the Enterprise back on mission. McCoy says, "No, damn it, he's not dead." Uhura even says, "No, he's not dead." And they have these little moments. They even have a funeral for Kirk. And, lo and behold, Kirk comes back. He was never truly dead, because that's Captain Kirk. But yeah, also a little bit Tholian web.
Good shout there. Yeah, you guys are much longer steeped in TOS than I am, so I always appreciate all of these nods that you guys are catching. So, all right, so we've hinted at it a little bit. So, Mike, I'm going to kick it back over to you. What do you think of the premise of the episode, and is this a tired Trek trope? We've already mentioned 4 different episodes that this kind of pulls threads from.
I don't think it's a tired Trek trope, because it's a good character study. And Star Trek is nothing but character studies and human drama, and the human condition is what science fiction really comes down to. So, no, I don't think it's a tired trope. But when it's done so pointedly, so obviously, and when they lean on a already done, already established script, that's what kind of takes this episode a point away from for me. So overall, though, going into it, with the cold opening and, maybe the first 10 minutes, you getting to understand the premise of where Erica is in this episode, I was all thrusters on full. I'm ready. I'm in. I'm really excited to see where this takes us.
Sure, what do you think?
Tired? No, not really. It's not been done to death like other Trek plots. And this take really lets Ortegas shine so much that I don't care about that particular aspect of this episode.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, Star Trek has done this kind of episode in multiple series. Between the 3 of us, we just rattled off TOS, Enterprise, and TNG. So clearly Star Trek is not done with this. It does feel a little heavy-handed when we get towards the ending. And folks, we are going to go into full spoiler territory right now, so be advised. The Metrons show up.
The Metrons.
I have seen Arena maybe once or twice, and it was a long time ago. So I totally forgot that they were even in the episode. So when I'm watching this, I'm like, who that? Who that person? Who dat? Who the Metrons? Have they shown up before? Oh yeah, they're in Arena. Derp. Okay. Go ahead, Char.
You know, honestly, I'm glad you confessed because I've got a confession to make too. I had to look up who they were and where we knew them from because I knew they were a callback, and I'm just thinking, like, racking my brain. Where are those guys from? Couldn't place it. Had to go on Memory Alpha because what you remember from Arena is the Gorn fight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Packing down a piece of cardboard tube with, some yellow dust, and boom.
Right, and throwing foam rocks.
Yeah, as soon as the twinkly lights in the sky appeared, it was over for me. At that point, it was over for me. I'm excited. I really like where this episode is going. It is showing Starfleet's capabilities in teaching their crew survival skills. It is showing how to be independent and how to stand up. She's recovering from her traumas or PTSD. Oh my God, a Gorn. This is insane. Oh, whoa, what a coincidence. Oh, here's a light in the sky also? It just became too on the nose, too much, too soon. And I don't know. I probably wouldn't have liked it if they stuck with the Metron. Would I have liked it if they had gone a different direction and just made it a happy coincidence? Could it have been like a Gorn hunting ground and this female pilot was just left over and just, has been surviving all these decades? Would that have been interesting too? The story could have ended the exact same way, and for all we care, the episode would have resolved exactly the same way. It never needed the Metrons. This episode never needed the Metrons. And that's one of the biggest issues that I have with this episode.
I fully agree with that, 100%. This episode could have eliminated that subplot entirely and been probably a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because something is sus with the glowing lights. They're telling us that something is up. And also, this should be such an uninhabitable planet that obviously there's a setup going on. But yeah, of course it was a test. Of course it was.
Yeah. There was a line that the Metron said that really glued itself into my brain the second they said it. You're not ready for the resolution with the Gorn. We need more experimental data. Perhaps one day we will change your perceptions of who they are. And I thought, what an on-the-nose way of saying, perhaps one day we will change the perception of who they are, just to kind of correlate the CGI heavy graphic lizard with the rubber suit lizard. And it just felt like such a ham-fisted way of shoving into a viewer like me, who has grown up with TOS, who watched the episode several times because he was a kid and he saw a guy in a rubber suit and thought that was cool. It just felt like a ham-fisted way to tell viewers like me that, yes, things will change, get over it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I will say, I saw somebody point this out the other day, and I don't remember where I read it or what, but kind of the idea was, we have been fans of Star Trek for quite a while. There are some folks whose entry point for Star Trek is Strange New Worlds. So while this might be old hat to us, this is brand new stuff for them. And, everybody's got different entry points. I came in with the JJ movies, which is baffling to so many people because so many people just cannot stand those movies. And I get it. That's fine. But that was my gateway drug. And I had to go watch everything. I went home and immediately hit play on TOS. I watched the original pilot, and 6 years later I'd watched everything. Because
and look at you now.
Look at me now. It's literally my job.
Look, that was the idea, was to give the franchise a shot in the arm, and it worked. There's a whole generation of fans just like yourself, Ashley, who have gone back now and seen a lot of Star Trek. If they've not seen it all, that's okay. But it did its job. It's keeping the franchise alive. I don't know why people hate the Kelvin movies so much.
Yeah,
I love them.
Yeah. So with all that in mind, if I'm thinking about this being someone's entry point into Star Trek, I'm willing to be a little more forgiving of this being like, oh, and these are the Metrons. This will be important later. Take a note. So I'm willing to be a little more forgiving of that, even if I'm just like, was it necessary? Not totally, but, to each their own on that.
That is a fair point. because a brand new fan who just knows Strange New Worlds has no other context. And it's probably good for us old-timers to remember that.
Yeah, I try not to be so curmudgeonly that I'm not willing to, make room for other people at the table,
Right, yeah, we shouldn't all be just throwing our canes around saying, "Get off our lawn!"
Yeah, no, I'm an extrovert. You can come on my lawn. Come sit with me on the porch. We'll watch Star Trek.
It does feel a little bit like that sometimes, and I'm glad you pointed that out, Ashley. Thank you. It's important to remember that, this is a building towards the rest of the franchise in some way. And I think that's the tricky part that every prequel is ever going to have to deal with, is how do you make this thing look like that thing when they have such disparate visuals? Right.
Yeah. And for some folks that's bothersome. I'm just like, I understand that this was made 60 years later. I'm not going to be cranky about how the visuals look. So, well, let's move on just a little bit. One of the things I really enjoyed about this episode is that this is an episode about interpersonal dynamics. And to me, that is always the most interesting part of the story. Yes, you can have the big pew pew action, kaboom, like all that stuff just fine as well. But for me, the meat of the episode is the interpersonal dynamics. So I've written down a few. You guys are welcome to jump in and see what you think about that. But tell me what y'all think about Uhura and Ortegas' friendship. Talk to me about that. Char, you want to take a stab at that?
Well, can I lead in with a question?
Please.
Because is it just me, or was this kind of made up and enhanced for this episode in particular? Because, yeah, they work together. They are probably friends, but how deep does this friendship go? Maybe it's because I've not rewatched Strange New Worlds in a little while, but this seemed to have come maybe not out of nowhere, but like they are at a deeper level of friendship than I ever thought they were. And I just thought, they're forcing this so that Uhura fights to get Ortegas back.
I'm gonna say I think they've established some of this a little more. I feel like maybe in season 1 you got a little more of Uhura, or excuse me, not Uhura, but Ortegas and Chapel like being buddy. Well, Chapel's been off the ship. In season 2 you see the three of them all. They're a trio of besties, and they're hanging out and getting up to shenanigans and gonna go visit an alien planet because why not? They're doing stuff together, and so the three of them are close. Well, Chapel's been off the ship for a good portion of this season, so it would make sense that she and Uhura are spending, more time together. You see them interact and hang out more earlier in the season. So for me, that worked for me. So
okay, that's really helpful actually to help fill in some of the between the lines.
Yeah. So that makes sense to me.
It was a little heavy. I did think some of it was a little heavy. I didn't feel weird about it. Why would I feel weird about it? I don't know. But they seem to amp up the friendship in a way just to remind viewers, hey, they've been established. They've been, serving together on the ship. I do think season 1 was more of like a mentor-mentee relationship, and then things kind of evolved over season 2. But I've always felt that Chapel was like the social glue, and I made this point in the last episode with Ian and Ian Ramsey, our guest, where it kind of sort of felt like when Chapel was turned Vulcan, she was breaking up with everybody and everything. So she was like shoving all of her friends away, and I made the point that she seemed like the social glue for the Enterprise, for that crew of crew members, and they sort of missing Chapel in this episode, especially, kind of leaves a gap in terms of where some of that energy would go. So they only have each other, and they were just throwing all of that at each other in that time. So it did feel compressed in a little bit of a way. But yes, I do think that their dynamic is really quite interesting in this episode in particular, because it's almost, I don't know, Char, what you think maybe, but almost like baby sister to Ortegas in a little bit of a way.
Possibly. Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I can roll with that too. I will say I got a comment last week's episode where Vulcan Chapel says, I spent 20 plus hours socializing last week, and I'm like, hashtag extrovert problems.
Only 20, Ashley says?
No. I'm like 20. I'm like, I haven't ever counted, but yeah, sure. That probably is pretty close to me too. So, yeah. Yeah, so I get all of that. And so I think that's really a good point, Mike, that you're making that, Chapel is like the social glue. Well, yeah, because if she's spending 20 hours a week socializing, then there you go, there's that. So I think maybe in her absence, Uhura seems like she might be on the ambivert side. I think Erica's a little more introverted, but I could see her being like, hey, buddy, let's go get a drink. Let's go have some fun. Let's go do something. And Erica, she likes to have a good time. She likes to have a party, and I'm like, can relate.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I can definitely see many a night where they're in the lounge, decompressing after a long day, getting a drink, having a good time, having some good conversation.
Yeah.
And then you go home and collapse and sleep really good.
Yeah. So there's that. So I like that dynamic. You've also got Pike and Una, who are, Pike's like, I don't want to leave somebody behind. Una's like, I get it. I don't want to leave her behind too, but we've also got this other problem. Like, we've got to get these vaccines to this planet or people are going to die. There's some good tension there. So, Mike, I'm going to throw it over to you, bro. What are you feeling about that tension?
I've kind of noticed over this season in particular that Captain Pike is Captain Dad, and Una is Captain Mom. And it's a weird dynamic, and I guess it's a command style, we haven't seen it before, between Kirk, Picard, Sisko, Janeway, Archer, they all had their styles of command, and Pike is very laid back. He even calls out Uhura for making a mistake and lying, and then he says, but it's okay because you did it for the right reasons. So it's kind of that mixed messaging that he gives in a lot of instances. And that tension comes into play in this episode a little bit, especially with Una. I mean, also I see in the notes, there's a vaccine. The Enterprise is on a vaccine delivery. That, if you have to ask me, I think that's a little bit of a tired trope for the Enterprise missions. Like, always.
And yet, way too relevant in the 2020s.
Yeah, seriously. Where were you? So it's kind of interesting that they make Una be the bad guy, and I don't know that I like that for socio-political reasons. Always making the woman the bad guy on the bridge, I think is not cool. Pike should step up and he should lead, and he should actually make a decision. He barely made any decisions. He let Uhura make decisions for him. He let Una tell him when the red line was. And then the red line came and went, and he still didn't listen to it anyway. So it's been an interesting run, seeing how Pike commands his ship.
Oh, damn, Mike. Yes, you have nailed one of the problems I have with Season 3.
Ooh.
And that I think Pike's command style has gone really soft.
Yeah.
And you're right. He is putting Una in the position to be more of the bad guy. And granted, she can handle it, but he is in the center seat. He should handle it. And I don't know, when you mention the mom and pop dynamic, yes, that's definitely them, but I would dare say Janeway and Chakotay had a little bit of that vibe going on too, where the kids will mind the store while they have dinner and they talk shop for a little while. It got to be that point. It didn't start out that way, but they kind of got there.
I'm almost willing to say that Pike is looking more at like what is the emotional drive, like what's motivating my crew to behave in this way, versus like being more hard and fast. Well, these are the lines of the mission or of what we have to do. And so I see them more as striking a balance. But you're right, Pike is in the center seat, and he has to be the one to make the hard call. And it feels like sometimes he's not willing to do that. And I kind of get it, because I want everyone to love me. So if I'm the captain, I'm Captain Mama, and everybody loves me. So, I think about Ransom's like, I'm your mama now. So, like, that's me.
So if we're doing, like, ethos, pathos, logos, does that mean Una is logos, and I think Pike is supposed to be doing... Well, I know, I'd say Uhura's doing pathos right now in this episode, because she's the emotional side, whereas he's supposed to be ethos, but is not fulfilling that role very well. Hence a lot of problems as to how things go the way that they do. Yeah. It's definitely it's creating tension, and yeah, we can get frustrated with Pike all we want to, but maybe that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah. And, a lot of the things that were going on in the briefing rooms on the Enterprise during this episode, I actually liked a lot of the dialogue and a lot of the tension built in those scenes. And the only thing that I kept noticing is how familial everybody is. Very little usage of ranks, very little usage of sir, ma'am, or even simple, yes, I acknowledge, or anything like that. It's just very dinner table conversation-y, which I know Pike loves his dinner table. So that's something that has happened enough in this season that I've really started to take notice of it.
Yeah. Is it getting too permissive and too relaxed?
That's a good question. I know that's something that Craig's brought up several times. All of y'all have brought it up at different points, and that's my style of leadership. I want to, somebody still needs to make the hard call. I'm not saying that that's not a thing that should happen, but perhaps when do we put on the manager hat versus the buddy hat?
Mm-hmm.
And having been a manager, I've had to say, okay, I'm putting on my manager hat. This means I have to say manager things, and I don't want you to be mad at me because I'm your buddy. This is me speaking as a manager. This is what has to go down. And I think it's really hard to cross that line.
Yeah. And
I'm wondering how Pike, knowing his own destiny, is leading into that. Like, he knows he's got some plot armor, for want of better terminology, for now. So I know he knows he's going to be okay, but he is maybe scared to make the hard call where his crew is at risk.
Those are the unknown variables that he's been struggling with, yes. Which would be great to explore this in an episode and actually sit down with Captain Pike. Have we had a proper episode or storyline that centers around our starship's hero, Captain?
I mean, maybe episode 1 of the season?
But that was only wrapping up what happened 2.5 years ago.
We really could use a check-in, because we had those earlier. Like, remember somewhere in season 1, Una checks in, I think post a dinner scene, and just says, hey, how are you doing? Yeah. And he was very conflicted then. What's going on now? That might really help us understand all of this that we're discussing right now.
And I think some of reality is coming into play here. I know Anson Mount and his wife just had another kid, and as I understand it, kid number 2 was a high-risk pregnancy. So maybe there is some dialing back of Pike's storyline during this time. So I don't know exactly when said kid was born and when all of this was filming and all of that, and how that may potentially have factored in some of a more Pike-centric storyline. But
okay, and you know what? That's fair if there were personal things going on in his life and he had to take a little bit of a step back to attend to family, because, hey, that should come first.
Yeah,
for sure. But yeah, well, let's talk about Uhura versus the rest of the ship, and this may basically be Uhura versus Una, who's Una's having to take the hard stance here, but it feels like Uhura's like, we've got to go save my girl, like, and we can't leave her behind. I get this is important, blah blah blah, but we have to try. And I feel that. I'm not leaving my bestie in some who knows where nebula. So I feel that. So let's talk some more about that. Shar, what do you think about Uhura kind of taking the lead on this?
It doesn't surprise me in the least that she doesn't give up, ever. Because we've seen her time and time again come up with alternative plans, different ways of doing something, basically accomplishing what seemed impossible a few moments ago. That's not out of character for her at all. My big question, though, is would she do the same thing that she's doing for Ortegas in this episode than she would for anybody else on the crew? You know, nameless red shirt, is that cool if we just leave him behind? Or are you fighting because this is your friend and it's coming from a more personal place? And what are the ethical boundaries of that? You know, I was waiting for somebody, maybe Una, to say, I understand this is your friend, but if it were anybody else, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. There's how many people waiting for this vaccine over on this planet? And look, we had COVID not that long ago. Were we not all waiting for vaccines? If we wanted to get them, not everybody did. But that whole thing was happening. And then if, our shipments are getting delayed because of one person, how pissed would people be when they found out?
Fair. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm also approaching it from another perspective, which is there was no chance that anyone on the bridge wouldn't have done the same thing were it Una, were it Pike, were it Spock, were it Uhura herself. There is nobody. It's very reciprocal because it's very familial. They're very friendly with each other. There's no way in hell that any single one of those crew members on the bridge aren't going to go to bat for another crew member on the bridge who's stuck in an SOS situation. And Pike even tells Uhura, I was always going to go look for her. That was never not an option, So that also makes me wonder, like, why wouldn't you just, co-sign it from the get, instead of wasting so much time. But anyway, right. Yes, Uhura versus the rest of the ship. It kind of sort of felt like to me that the rest of the ship sort of parted a little bit to let Uhura work through this. Everybody was relatively calm. I mean, concerned and dedicated to the mission of getting their crewmate back. But at no point did Pike show the same level of emotion that Uhura was showing. La'an, who's also very buddy-buddy and hangs out all the time with that group, did not show any heightened emotion over it. Una was the only one who was really like, I'm upset. This is really upsetting. And maybe part of that was because she had to be the bad guy and say, we have to go. But at the same time, she also felt that emotional tug, which was nice to see. So it just, the context of having the vaccine to go to the planet just felt like such an arbitrary timeline on the episode. It didn't feel that it was necessary other than to make Una the bad guy.
Interesting. I have, I think, two issues with this whole thing. One is that Uhura does lie. And that is not in character for her, and I did not like that whatsoever.
Same. Thank you for saying that.
And then the other thing is if they are working through this problem, it's not impossible that if Uhura really wanted to step up and do something, she could have taken a shuttle and figured it out, and the Enterprise could have gone off. Risky? Absolutely. What did she do a couple episodes ago with the neurological device and what have you. She volunteered for that. Again, not out of character for her. Why didn't that happen? Have your cake and eat it too, Strange New Worlds.
Fair. All fair points. I think, Pike said it had to have a whatever of at least 61%. And it was at 56.
Mm-hmm.
That's close enough for me to fudge it. But that's just me talking. That being said, I have empathy for her. I could see why she'd be like, yes, not close enough. Good enough for government work is a turn of phrase that came to mind. But
wouldn't there be a record though of her altering the number?
Yeah. There was definitely, it said manual override. I'm like,
Come on.
Yeah. So, yeah, I get it. All right. Now, finally, we are coming to the crux of this episode. Ortegas and the Gorn.
Yes.
Let's talk about this. We haven't even gotten to the planet yet. So we're on the planet. Ortegas also evoking Winona Ryder in 2009 Star Trek with the
Yep.
rap. The hip
definitely.
Rap. I'm like, I definitely crossed my mind. Also with the short hair, I also had like flashbacks to Winona Ryder in Alien Resurrection with the short hair. But anyway, that again, I was just thinking a lot about Winona Ryder apparently watching this episode, and I don't know why.
That's cool.
All right, it's whatever. I love her. It's fine. Mike, throwing it over to you. Bro.
Okay, so in my notes as I was writing out this episode, I got tired of writing Ortegas and the Gorn, so I just started writing Gorn-Tegas.
Gorn-Tegas.
New hashtag.
Oh.
Yo, what? I mean, sure. You want to say maybe it's a little derivative of Darmok. Maybe, sure, I get that. But I was so pleased with how it was done. And I enjoyed the moments of understanding. I loved Ortegas. I don't call it talking to myself. I call it auditory processing.
Mm-hmm.
Just talking out the problem, working it through. That's all it is. So I loved seeing her on the shuttle try to figure out step 1, shelter. Got it. Step 2, water. Let me build a water condenser. And then she takes a nap and she has water. That's really cool. I think more of that in TV in general, showing people actually doing the thing and succeeding at it. Not just say they're going to do it, cut to the thing. Really well done there. Throughout this sequence on the planet, I loved everything to do with Gorn and the Ortegas. Everything with how they came together to defeat the space worms on the rock worms, make food, fire. And the Gorn does not like that. Okay, I'll sit over here, no problem. And they have like a little tit for tat. Just awesome, lovely. It was so cool. And in the back of my head the whole time I thought, well, okay, the Enterprise is going to get Ortegas, and they're probably going to beam them up at the last second. And what are they going to do with the Gorn on the transporter pad? The whole episode, that's all I can think about. And that's where I was excited to go.
Oh, you were excited?
Should've known.
I was dreading.
Fire away, Shar.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the good stuff. Because I fully agree with you, what you just said, Mike. It is done so well that I don't care that it's been done before. It is really cool to see somebody in a fairly bleak situation. We're talking just bare bones survival, thinking through problems and making things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more of that, please. I fully agree. And the fact that it's a female Gorn, that's cool, because we haven't exactly seen a whole lot of female Gorn. It's usually the guys. And so that made it an interesting dynamic, but then finding ways to communicate reminded me a lot of Andy Weir's work. If you've ever read The Martian or Project Hail Mary, especially, stuff like that. Yeah, very much that sort of thing. And that's fun to me. Thoroughly enjoyed all of that. And once again, gotta mention Melissa Navia absolutely carrying this thing, because she is, if she's not talking to herself, she is talking to like a little rubber monster. So that is some serious acting work to put all on one person to carry an episode.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, I loved her in her own Captain Janeway cosplay when the sleeves came off. Like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's
Ortega's
been
gun
working
show.
out. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
great stuff.
You know it's serious when.
Mm-hmm. The guns come out.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, the ending, I knew it was going to happen, and I didn't want it to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved every second of watching Melissa just monologue. And I am an external processor, so I'm by myself. I am talking it out because I have to hear it for my brain to understand what I need to do next. I think it's interesting. When I got to interview Melissa for Fangirlish before season 1 premiered, Melissa in that interview described herself as Ortegas is the Riker of the Enterprise. I'm like, okay, bold statement. All right. And we see her deliver on being an awesome pilot and being like a great friend and just having fun, like being a fun person. But I think this is really the first time you get to see her. Oh yeah, I am the Riker of the Enterprise. Let's go. And here you see her, competent, using her survival skills, whatever. I think one of the things I enjoyed the most, one of the reasons I just really gravitated to the character of Ortegas is that I see a lot of myself in Ortegas. Besides, hey, look at this cool girl with short hair. Oh, and you fly the ship and you swing swords and you do other cool stuff. Okay, I want to hang out with you. You're gonna be my new buddy. And so I really loved everything about her character because I saw myself reflected back, and I have seen that so rarely in media that I just really gravitated to her. And so I saw that same thing happening on the screen where she's connecting with this Gorn, like, oh, you're a lady too? And you're a pilot too? Wow, 2 lady pilots? We're just a couple gals having a slumber party. And I'm just like, I love everything about this because that's literally what I would have said. Braid each other's hair. Like
totally see it.
Yes, this is a thing that's coming out of my mouth. Yeah, I loved every second of that. I thought that was really interesting and fun, and it was really fascinating to see a Gorn who was not immediately going to rip you apart or turn you into the next like Gorn hatchling receptacle.
Now, what did you feel about the revelation that the Gorn understands human common language?
That was really interesting to me. I'm like, oh, you do? That's fascinating. Okay, that means you've probably been watching humans a lot longer than humans have been watching you. So I thought that was really interesting. I would love to hear what La'an has to say about that.
Yep. Too bad she'll never find out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So there's that. Gosh, that ending though.
Yeah.
Heartbreaker.
Yeah.
Heartbreaker. I love that the big swing of this was like, hey, we've got to make a big kaboom to, we're turning this whole planet into a flare, basically.
Yeah. I'm not sure who said it. I don't remember exactly who said it, but it was like only Ortegas would blow this thing up to send out a distress signal. Yes, she would.
Yep.
Yeah, yep.
And she did.
My girl is extra, and I love it. Here for it. Let's go.
And it worked, did it not?
It worked. But was extremely upset by this ending. I knew it was gonna happen. I was like, oh crap. They're gonna shoot first and ask questions later. But I mean, I get the knee-jerk reaction because every previous encounter with the Gorn has been extremely deadly.
Yeah.
Right. This Gorn had no chance.
Yeah.
Either she was going to die on this planetoid, or she was going to get beamed aboard the ship, like, oh crap, that's a Gorn, poo-poom, or this was going to happen. And hated it so much.
Yeah. There was no happy ending for our Gorn pilot, which is really sad. But I am hoping that, and this is something that I had to take away from the episode, another point, if you will. No debriefing with the captain. No sit-down scene like, Erica, you just went through it. We heard you on comms, on the distress beacon, riding the wormhole in. And you made it through. Here are all your sensor logs. Like, it's crazy. Like, tell us everything that happened. And no conversation with La'an, no conversation with Pike or Una about your PTSD and your traumas. Are you still doing okay? Yes, Captain. I'm actually better than I was before.
Okay, can we talk about all of that a little more?
Please.
Because
what you got?
For as much as Ortegas might have been working on her trauma, this whole shakeup has got to have some sort of profound effect on her all over again. Mm-hmm. And she's been re-traumatized now, maybe doubly traumatized. Holy crap, what does that do to someone? I don't even know, and I'm frightened for her. But there's so much unresolved here, and I really, 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 really hope episode 10 gives us some of this. We need a moment with La'an and Ortegas to process what happened, because we understand as an audience, yeah, La'an's going to see the Gorn and, okay, she's shooting that thing without any context, no questions asked. But the fallout, we need to see the fallout. We do need to see a debriefing with Pike. We need to see kind of just where Ortegas is now after this experience. And I really worry that we're not going to get it because it's going to be the last episode of the season, and they're probably going to go for some sort of epic adventure. There may or may not be a cliffhanger, and none of this is going to get processed, and that pisses me off.
Yeah, it's having the hug with Uhura, the big hug. It's a reuniting of the friends, but that's nice, and that's the sweet ending. That's the sweet and sugar and saccharine ending for me. That's not the meat and potatoes ending.
Yeah, and when you need meat and potatoes and you get cotton candy instead, it's not satisfying.
Yeah.
It worked for me, but I like the cotton candy. But yes, you guys are right. I'm going to assume we have some debriefing with Pike. I'm going to assume that we have some processing with Una and talking about how are you? Because that was really traumatizing. Also, Gorn? What? I'm going to assume these conversations have happened or will happen at some point. Uhura does say, hey, I saw you in the transporter room. There were so many people. I wanted to, catch up with you later. So maybe those things happened. They happened off camera.
A lot of things happen off camera on the show.
I mean, we have lamented it so many times, but this is the side effect of having a 10-episode season, and I have just made peace with the fact that I'm probably not going to get a lot of the details that I want, and so I'm having to insert my own headcanon here and roll with it. Do I like it? I don't like having to do that. I wish we would get more with this. We still have the finale to go. Are we going to fill in these gaps in other ways? I don't know. So I really hope that we do get some resolution, at least, or a conversation with La'an and Ortegas at some point, because I feel like that needs to happen. And I think Uhura, said it well. The Gorn was your friend and cared for you. La'an is your friend and cares for you. And they were both doing what they could to protect you. It's just,
right.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, it's a hard place to be, and you just have to accept it for what happened, and it's one of those where you don't feel like it's really anybody's fault.
It's really not, and that's the difficult thing about it is blame is not going to help, hatred's not going to help, forgiveness is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
And that's really your only option. And so how do you do that? We really do need that follow-up.
Yeah. So I hope this isn't, to use a phrase you said the other night on Mission Log Live, Char, cue the fanfic. I hope this isn't I have to read somebody's fanfic to help me fill in the gaps for this. I hope that I get to see it on screen, but we'll see.
Yeah. I don't mind when a show makes you fill in some of the blanks, but when it leaves so many blanks that you have to go to fanfic to fulfill that part of your brain where there's that gaping blank space, they've cut out too much, in my opinion.
I would agree. Paramount doesn't agree. They're like, nah, you get 10 episodes and you're going to like it. So,
yep.
Yeah, but that's how it is. So any other thoughts on that before we move on?
I've got a couple notes.
Fire away, Mike. What do you got for us, bro?
Sure. So I noticed this was not a particularly Spock-heavy episode.
Shocking.
Yeah.
In Strange New Worlds, they do love their Spock.
They do. And I must say, outside of one moment in the beginning of the show that I didn't really care for, Spock was very Spock, if you know what I mean. He was very logical. He was ready to do his job. He was supportive. And I liked everything that Spock brought to the table, which honestly wasn't a whole lot. But being as he's not the first officer, I keep thinking he is. He's just the science officer, and he's still just a lieutenant. So, I've had to kind of reformulate, like, hey, he's not the guy at all things at all times. But in the opening of the episode, I mentioned earlier where they always seem to be, like, looking for the joke. And when they open, you have Spock being very Spock. They're talking about the mission. Everything's by the book. Everything's going well. And then Ortegas, makes a little bit of a joke. And, they make a joke about his weight. And, he has the whole crack about keeping him, very consistent between, whatever amount of kilograms it is. And I just thought it would have been perfect if Ortegas said the joke about being light as a feather and, needing to keep, too many ounces or whatever it was that she said. And it just went over Spock's head. That would have been so funny and so great. But it's just part and parcel of Strange New Worlds looking for the joke. And this episode became somewhat emotional in so many ways that introducing comedy in those moments, I'm glad that they didn't. They kept it at the front of the episode, and then the rest of it, it was very serious. It was very business. And we're here for that. And I was just grateful that we had that.
Yeah, it was a little refreshing when they've leaned into the comedy so heavily for a good majority of season 3 episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I also really like the Gorn playing the games. Ortega's playing chess and the Gorn game. I thought that was a really delightful scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
That was really fun. Like, are you hustling me? Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not the world's greatest chess player, but if I just teach somebody the game and they whoop me at it, like, come on.
Right?
Honestly, that Gorn learned how to play chess faster than I ever have.
Yeah, seriously. And then the whole, oh, I won, so I have to eat the piece now? Oh, no, thank you. that I mean that might fly if you're a Gorn, but not gonna work with me.
Yeah, I will say the very end where Ortegas puts the game piece, on her shelf in her quarters. Oh, that broke my heart.
Big feels.
Yeah,
Big feels.
That was a great ending.
Yeah, and in a place of significance is right next to the picture of her brother.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she feels familial feelings about this Gorn. And
yeah, man,
that's rough.
This is why we can't let go of what happened here just yet.
Yeah. I hope I don't have to read a novel or somebody's fanfic or whatever to get a little more processing with this. But
so what you're saying is, even though you got more Ortegas, you need even more Ortegas.
Listen, there will never be enough Ortegas for me. Like, you have 2 seasons to make up for. Like, I need at least 3 more Ortegas episodes next season, minimum.
Honestly, that's not too much to ask. For a character that's been so underserved the first 2 seasons of the show, it's about damn time she got a big episode. And it's season 3, episode 9.
Goodness gracious. And like you see what Melissa can do when you give her something to do. She completely like just killed it. Like
she can bring it.
She
Let her.
is bringing her A game. Mike, you said it. She left everything on that studio floor.
Yeah.
She did incredible. Props to Melissa. Please be my friend.
And honestly, we know that Ortegas is not necessarily going on. Like, she's not in the original series, so we know that at some point she goes away, is no longer around, what have you. So this is the time we get with this character. Why are we not making the most of it?
Yes. We've been talking about this for most of the podcast. It's not the TOS reboot show. It's supposed to be Strange New Worlds. And we have new characters that we would like to be more familiar with. We would like to get to know them better and enjoy them in this show, as opposed to just learning about where's young Scotty? Where's young Sulu?
Yes.
Oh, where's even
who's in a relationship with Spock this week?
Yes. All that is very accurate. And I do think that, well, it's hard to say because they're already in 4, if not wrapped with 4. But after this episode that we've just watched, if the producers aren't automatically green-lighting those scripts with Melissa Navia, then they are not doing their jobs properly.
No, they are not. And I will continue to bang the gong. Ortegas. Hashtag Ortegas.
Fight for your girl.
Fight for my girl. So, anyway. All right. Well, friends, any final thoughts on the episode?
Just that I hope that this is not over with. Not yet. Give us something to chew on in episode 10. I want a little bit of follow-up. I want a little bit of processing before we can really move on to whatever's next.
Yeah. Very good. Mike, any final thoughts on the episode?
I know that we spent a good amount of time talking about the things that we didn't really care for in this episode, and I think the only reason that is because it was actually a really excellent episode for a lot of reasons, and I think viewers will find those reasons for themselves in the episode. And when Strange New Worlds swings and it misses, it's rare. So the fact that they've been missing quite a bit lately is somewhat concerning, and I do have to wonder, like, what the heck is going on, it's just a lot of fun being had at the expense of the serious, dramatic stuff that we've come to know and really enjoy. And I think Star Trek is overall doing a really good job with it. So this seems to me like a pivot in that direction. If this were 24 episodes of a season, these are the filler episodes, and we're just getting We're getting a short season of 10, so the filler stuff really stands out.
Any final thoughts or hopes for the season 3 finale? Char, guess first.
I think I already mentioned what I want is follow-up.
Yeah.
And, Strange New Worlds has been swinging big this whole time. And in season 3, they've struck out a couple times. I do wonder what they're going to go for to end this season, and if season 4 might course correct a little bit. Yeah. Good thoughts. Mike, anything you're hoping for in the finale?
I'm going into the finale with a pretty open mind. This season has been pretty middling for me. If you took all my scores and averaged it out, it'd probably be like a 5.5 or a 6. And I'm looking forward to a fun, adventurous finale to kind of cap this season off. I do think that they do a good job of, setting up their stories and closing them and preparing for the next season. So I'm optimistic.
All right. Yeah, I think my hope for the finale is that it's not a 2-parter.
You don't want a cliffhanger?
No. Not when I have to wait like at least a year or more before I get the resolution. No, thank you.
Well, here's hoping we don't have to wait as long as we did for this season because of the strikes and what have you. Season 4, I have a feeling, will come a lot sooner.
Yeah.
Nevertheless,
if I'm given to understand correctly, season 4 has finished filming or is close to being done. Something like that. Yeah. So it is. Season 4 is wrapping up. So if in the filming portion of production, so we'll see what becomes of that, and hopefully we'll get it soon. But yeah, I don't like this whole going 2 years between shows. No, thank you. All right. Well, friends, this has been a really, really lovely chat, and I'm so happy that the three of us got to sit down and talk about this episode. This is the one I've been screaming for since day one, so I'm glad I finally got it. So, Charlynn Schmiedt, why don't you tell our listeners where they can connect with you online and find out more about your work?
Sure. So the best place to find me on social media is on Blue Sky. My handle is ohtheprofanity.com. You can find my Trek-inspired soap, as Ashley mentioned at the top of the show, at boldbubbles.com. And catch me on Roddenberry Entertainment, doing Mission Log Live every now and then with Ashley, and various other projects. You just never know where I'll show up.
Yeah. Very good, very good. Mike, where can the folks at home connect with you?
Well, if you've liked what you've heard on this podcast, you can follow the podcast at We Are Starfleet on the socials. We Are Starfleet pod.com is our website. And if you want to find me personally, at Mike Slamer Music is how you can find me. Other than that, that's my social media presence, and I'm sticking to it.
Folks, if you want to connect with me, please do so by hitting me up on Blue Skies, where I spend most of my time these days, but I also have Mastodon and Facebook pages. I'm at The Nerdy Blogger. You can read my words on my blog, nerdyblogging.wordpress.com. You can also read my words on fangirlish.com, where I write about film and television, mostly Star Trek. If you want to listen to me talk about other stuff that isn't Star Trek, listen to me on Podcast 616. That's Podcast-616 here on the Film Stories Podcast Network. You can also hear me on Mission Log Genealogy, talking all things Gene Roddenberry, his early TV writing, stuff that he did before Star Trek. That's on Roddenberry Entertainment. And you can also hear me on the Video Store Podcast, where myself and some rotating hosts, we all offer film recommendations based around a theme or a director or actor, etc. Those can be found at videostorepodcast.com. Thanks for joining us for another episode, and remember, we are part of the Film Stories Podcast Network. Please subscribe to We Are Starfleet and give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars, please and thank you. And if you want to help us out, we would love to connect with you on Blue Sky. You can do that at starfleetpod.bsky.social and Instagram at starfleetpod. Find all of our links, as Mike said, at wearestarfleetpod.com. But until next time, hit it.